Hey, what's going on? It's Matthew, and welcome to Henosis. If you enjoy self development content and you enjoy listening to podcasts or even watching it, then do me a huge favor subscribe to this channel, comment below any questions or your favorite parts from the episodes or any video that we upload on here. I really appreciate you for being here. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. And I do want to get into our background. Like you mentioned, we're both Laotian American. Both come from. Are you? I think I'm second gen. Yeah, I'm second gen.
Yep,
Are you second gen too?
I am.
Okay. So our grandparents came here, right? And so our
Yeah.
grandparents came here, and I think it's very similar to a lot of immigrant stories.
Right.
They come here to America because there's better opportunities, right? And so, um, but at the same time, they come here with better opportunity, and then you know they 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 still have that um, immigrant, I guess, mindset. Where it's like they're being taught like you got to work hard, you got to go to school, you got to
Yep.
get a job, get a
Yep.
degree, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's
Right.
been people who've been very successful following that life path. Um, but I wanted to know, like, being that you're a life coach now, was it difficult to transition into that? And like, what was it like? Because doing what we do, it's so different from the norm
Yeah.
of the Laotian culture. Although I think a lot of Laotians are entrepreneurial in spirit. But
Yeah.
um, how was that for you? Because you didn't go to school. Well, you did, right?
I did. I
Okay.
did. I did go to school. And my parents were like, now what? What are you doing?
Mm,
It's so, side note too, I am half white. So I am half white, but sometimes I forget that I'm white because my dad is because he was so into the Laotian culture. Like he
uh-huh.
is a foreigner's man in a white body, I swear sometimes. It's really cool to see. My dad was so committed to the culture and him and my mom, they understood each other so well. Um, but it's interesting because I don't know if you can relate, but as a kid, I always knew. I don't know how I knew because no one told me, and this was never, entrepreneurship and content creation. It wasn't like a thing. It didn't really exist like that back, especially content creation. It didn't really exist back then. Entrepreneurship was just kind of like, some people had businesses, or you were like owner of Walmart. That was really it. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't there wasn't this type of scale where you could scale in the world that we have today. So I don't know what it was. I always knew that I had intentions of going to college. I love learning. I was great at school. I love learning. Like it's always been, I've always been into that. But I just knew that I wasn't gonna do things the way that people were telling me I had to do it. I knew that I wasn't going to be following the structure, and I knew that I had to be doing something that hasn't been done yet, and not in like a self like idolizing way. I just felt like I had to do, like I felt like I was given a mission as a kid. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta do something here, like, and just following my life, I can see the patterns of like that's confirmation there. All the things that I've been through, all the roles that I've been given. I'm like, yeah, Um, but same thing. My mom and my grandma, they wanted me to go to school. They wanted me to be quiet and timid, and or not timid, but they wanted me to, be dainty and feminine, and work in an office and wear heels, and which that stuff's cool. Like I'm very I'm very feminine. I'm into my femininity, but I'm definitely not dainty. I'm very eclectic, and I'm the black sheep of my family for sure, and I think I've always been that way. I value having a childlike essence. I think that's the way I've carried myself all throughout life and even into adulthood. I totally embrace being your full self and having childlike curiosity about the world around you, because I think when you have that, it allows you and it gives you permission to explore and learn more, and it challenges you to solve a lot of problems because you're so curious. So I've been navigating that way since I was young, and it was hard because I I wasn't I was always the kid challenging a lot of the traditions that we had and the rules. You know, if we had to do something, I'm like, well, why are we doing that? And they'd be like, we don't know, just do it. You know, and I'm like, well, why don't you guys know? And why are we doing it if you don't know? So I was always the outlier in many Laotian settings. Um, yeah, I feel like people were always like they always had their eyes on me, especially because I would usually be the only half white, half Laotian child in a lot of Laotian settings. And my grandma took me everywhere with her. My parents were always working, so my grandma really raised me. I like slept in a bed with her till I was 13. We shared a room. Like we were like connected at the hip. And rest in peace to my grandma, love her. But we'd go everywhere. And the thing with Laotian culture is that, and a lot of Asian cultures, that you are a reflection of your parents. Like, Mulan's like, you got to bring honor to your family. And that is such a real thing. It's like everything that you do is going to be scrutinized, and people are watching in that community. They are watching because it reflects, how your parents have raised you. And so I take a lot of pride in always bringing honor to the people that I know, and especially like my mom and my dad and my grandma, they raised me. Like, I think I really try to be the best person that I can be because I know that I am a representation of them, and it's more than just me. So I try to find the balance between that and also embracing who I am meant to be, right? Um, so that was hard growing up because I was always challenging things, and it was hard for them because I think they thought I was being rebellious, but in reality, I was just, I respected their authority, and I respected all their insight and their knowledge. I'm so blessed with very smart, wise, and just great influences growing up as far as adult figures. Like, they're just, I'm so blessed.
Mhm.
Um, they're just good people. And it was just hard because everything that they told me that they wanted me to do was always out of love. That's usually how Asian parents are. It's just, they want you to go to school and get a good education because they want you to have a secure future. And they've been conditioned to believe that because of the circumstances that they were in from the countries that they have left. It's like, that's the only way you come to America to get that type of opportunity. But the
Mhm.
great thing about our country is that that's not the only way to have opportunity. And
Mhm.
somehow I just knew that as a kid. My dad was kind of an entrepreneur. He was always doing little side things. He never really had like a job, and he'd always find ways to make it work. My dad is amazing. I think he's one of the biggest influences for why I wanted to just work for myself and do things differently, which is funny because even to this day, my dad's like, "Well, you went to school, you got a degree. Why don't you just go do that?" And again, it's a projection of security that they feel in their mind that
Mhm.
gives us that. But in reality, nothing can actually give us security. Yeah, maybe there will be a little bit more consistency. But one thing that I like to look at, the way that I like to see it is that you have, because it's so consistent, is because you have someone telling you what to do, right? You know, and for me, the freedom in working for myself and exploring my own path is that no one's telling me what to do. I have the power to figure it out on my own, and I think that no one's going to invest into me more than me.
Mhm.
So for me, that allows me to take my power back, and just it requires a lot of discipline and a lot of self responsibility and being accountable for your actions and being aware of everything that you do, how it's so intentional. But that's the life I like to live anyways. So it just, everything that I'm doing feels so aligned. But that's how the experience was for me. And I love the Laotian culture. I was always deeply, because of my mom and grandma, they had such a good, big influence on how dedicated I was to my culture. I would do the Nang Khan pageants, and I would do the Lao New Year festivals every year. And my mom's volunteered every year with fundraisers, and just, she was always at the temple, giving food to the monks. And she was just so selfless, and same with my grandma. And I respected that. And so I would, follow their example, and I did the same thing, and whenever I could help I would. And I tried to bring something to that community and the culture that I feel like it's lacking, which is why I'm in this space now, because I feel like Laotian culture really lacks a lot of depth and vulnerability, and we don't encourage each other as much as we should. It's a very, going back to, you know, the whole idea that it's very, you're being watched, like everyone's waiting to criticize you almost, it seems, but in reality it's not that they're waiting to criticize you. It's just like there's something internal going on there. So, you know, when people are really critical, it's because they're really critical of themselves. So when I see that being projected and reflected in the community, I know that there's internal issues going on that everyone is experiencing as a collective. So for me, with my coaching, I want to really just set an example, not even tell people information, but just set an example as a Laotian American that it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to be scared, but you owe it to not only yourself, but your community, and for the Laotian collective to do your best and try your best and make your own decisions and question things, and just think big picture. You know, it's not just about you. I think that's really big for me, and I admire that in the community, that it's not just about you. Everyone's playing a part in a big role, you know.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you kind of venture off and you kind of go against, I guess, the norm. You do have a lot of eyeballs on you, and that's kind of the way our culture is, you know. And yeah, you'll get critiqued and criticized, and some of it, you know, may hurt your feelings. But yeah, I do want to say, like, yeah, like everything you just said, it's really spot on, you know, when it comes to describing how our culture is. But yeah, I really want to also recognize that what you're doing is it's awesome, because we do need that vulnerability, and we do need, you know, everyone on board, because, you know, the way to make it is different today. You know what I mean?
It's different. It's always going to change.
It is, and we have to embrace that as a culture, you know. And a lot of our community very entrepreneurial. Like a lot of members of my family that have restaurants or some kind of, you know, small business.
Yeah.
But you know, there are different ways we can succeed as a just as an individual. You know what I mean? And so I think we have to, you know, it's going to take someone like you, someone like me, to kind of show, like, hey, like, you know, we can actually make it as content creators, or we can make it as doing something else, or we can have multiple things that we're doing, you know what I mean, and we're going to be okay, you know what I mean. And so, and again, not to say school is not the right path. It's,
Right.
you know, it just may not be the path that's for everyone. You know what I mean? And
Right. Right.
that's and I wish in our culture too, like we would embrace that a little bit more, because, you know, there's, you know, I could think of just different family members who didn't go to school, and, you know, that was the expectation that they had for everybody, and, you know, it kind of, you know, set them back, and so then and it's kind of hard to see.
Right.
But yeah, I want to definitely thanks for sharing that, and that's very well said, Mel. Hey, thanks for sticking all the way through. If you enjoyed that piece of content right there, don't forget to like the video. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Comment below your favorite parts, or maybe if you have a question about what was discussed and talked about. Either way, I really appreciate you for being here. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.